The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon update video. In this video, I will show you what Maisie Williams recently had to say about not only Game of Thrones, but House of the Dragon as well. Also, later in the same video, I will show you what Nikolaj Coster-Waldau said about House of the Dragon in one of his recent interviews. I know there are some of you who always like hearing what some of the older Game of Thrones actors have to say these days. I know I always find it interesting, even if their answers don't always reveal how they actually feel. Now first, let me show you what Maisie Williams said during her interview at Variety. In this interview, they ask her how she feels about the different scenes that she filmed on Game of Thrones. They ask her this because of something Sophie recently said about her scenes. As I'm sure most of you know by now, Maisie and Sophie basically became real-life sisters while working on Game of Thrones. In fact, they're still great friends to this day. Well, Sophie recently said that working on certain scenes in Game of Thrones was traumatic for her in ways that she still has to comprehend. So, the interviewer asked Maisie if she felt the same way about any of the scenes she was in during Game of Thrones. They wondered if she looks back on her scenes differently now that she's a little bit older. Maisie Williams said, "I don't find the scenes that I shot on Game of Thrones, and the nature of the violence and the descent into obsession over the list of names that she wants to kill, I didn't necessarily find that traumatic to do. I think I just found, growing... Well, I'm not going to say that. I did not find those scenes traumatic to do." After hearing about this, I did wonder what scenes Sophie was referring to. Now, if I had to guess, I would say the scene she filmed with Ramsay on their wedding night had to be one of the hardest scenes to be in. Filming something like that, especially at such a young age, must have affected her in some way. Obviously, I'm not the one who should be discussing something like this, so I will move on to the next thing that was mentioned during the interview. Maisie was also asked if she still talks to anyone she worked with on the show. She said everyone. We're all on a group chat, which is lovely. Everyone's doing really well. And I think that it's nice to keep up with them while they're enjoying their lives, which had been dominated by the show for so long. Now that is certainly nice to hear. I like knowing that they're all still friends even now, 3 years after the show has ended. I don't know about all of you, but I still get excited whenever I see someone from Game of Thrones in a new show or movie I'm about to watch. Alright, now this is when they ask her if she will be watching House of the Dragon. Maisie said yes, I'm really looking forward to it actually. My friend Olivia, who we all know as Alicent Hightower, is in the show, and it's been really interesting just chatting to her about the experience. I think it's actually a lot more pressure for them. All of the hungover concerns of our show are now just being thrown onto this new cast who had nothing to do with it. I want to be as supportive as I can to her as an actress, but also, I'm just really curious. I'm kind of looking forward to watching Game of Thrones, even though it's not actually Game of Thrones. I want to experience it as someone that's not on it. All I've done is meet fans who have done just that, and I never really was able to relate to it. Well, Maisie is definitely right about one thing. Old fans of Game of Thrones are worried that the same mistakes will be made on House of the Dragon, which isn't entirely fair, considering Dan and Dave no longer work for HBO. This is a new show, with new writers, that already has an amazing ending written by George R.R. Martin. In another recent interview, Maisie said she would consider stepping back into the role as Arya Stark someday, and that made a lot of news. The interviewer wanted to know if that news did surprise her. Maisie said, "No, are you kidding me? I haven't given anyone anything else to talk about yet. That's what everyone wants from me, but they're not going to get it until the time is right." It's nice to know what they want from you, even if it's not what you're ready to give. Now, maybe I am wrong about this, but it does seem like Maisie would be Arya Stark again. I bet a lot of the old Game of Thrones actors would step back into Westeros again. For most of them, it will be the most successful thing they will ever work on. Now, I'm sure by the end of Season 8, some of them did want a break from the show, but now that we're 3 years separated from the ending, some of them would most likely jump at the chance at joining HBO again for another incredible run. Now, what they discuss next is how Maisie Williams is very selective about what she says during her interviews, especially whenever Game of Thrones is mentioned. In fact, Maisie actually admits that she does do this, which we all knew already. Almost everyone does this whenever they're giving an interview. Now, what they ask her after this is why she does that. What is she worried about saying regarding Game of Thrones? They say it seems like maybe you don't want to be the center of a negative story about the show, given how everyone talked about it at the very end. Obviously, there was a lot of negative feedback after the final season aired. Maisie said no, I don't want to defend the show for that reason. I don't really mind that it ended that way. We were so disconnected from, I felt like my life and how it changed was so disconnected from the actual storyline of the show. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you couldn't go anywhere, and you couldn't, sleep on an airplane or whatever. And then it ended, and it was... we can breathe. And when everyone was like, but we hate the ending, it was just kind of like, well, it's nice for it to be done and to actually find some kind of normal life. I feel like I would have felt like that even if it had an amazing ending, Now, that very last sentence makes it sound as if she doesn't think it already had an amazing ending. Let's look at that last line again. Maisie said, I feel like I would have felt like that even if it had an amazing ending, Well, as we all know, she certainly would not be the first actor from Game of Thrones who felt that way. We have all seen more than enough video evidence to know how some of them actually felt.
Have you shot your final scenes yet, and are you happy with how things ended?
Yes.
She didn't say yes. You didn't say yes.
Best season ever! It's the best season ever.
Without telling us anything, because I know you can't, are you all happy with the way with the outcome of the show? Personally, or just
I think with the show.
The fray, it's a little bit Avengers Assemble, it's a little bit kind of like...
Well, that was totally what Season 7 was all about, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Character development?
Lob it all
Story!
But
I really need to shut up.
You're brave.
Let's move on and see what our old friend Jaime Lannister said about House of the Dragon. Now, I'll be the first to say he did not say much about the new show, but I will show you what he said anyway. Game of Thrones star Nikolaj Coster-Waldau is curious to revisit Westeros when the new series House of the Dragon airs on HBO Max in only a few months. During the interview, he said, I know it will be weird. Well, I've seen the trailer. It seems very familiar. He also said Miguel Sapochnik, who's one of the showrunners on House of the Dragon, directed some of the big episodes in Game of Thrones. So I have a feeling it will be very surreal to watch it. Although it will be a whole new ensemble from the one Nikolaj knew on Game of Thrones, he notes that the new series has an incredible cast. I hope they'll have all the success. Now, about Game of Thrones, he said, I miss my friends on the show. We all became friends after working together for nearly a decade. I really miss going to work and seeing the gang and the crew. So as you can see, he didn't say a whole lot during the interview, but like I said earlier, I still enjoy reading what they have to say about working on Game of Thrones, and or what they think about the new show House of the Dragon. I'm sure once HBO starts releasing the new episodes, everyone from Game of Thrones will have a whole lot more to say. And as always, I will be here making videos about everything, every step of the way. I hope all of you subscribe and join me for the ride. I want to thank everyone for watching the video. I will see you again soon. Bye.